Alrighty, this is where we left off on the last one before my computer decided it wanted to die. So this is how interest groups use power, and this is how they gain power. They start with grassroots. They show strong support on a local level. And I said examples of public demonstration, which, again, like the NAACP and civil rights movement, they'll start on the local level. That's a grassroots campaign. You have litigation, lawsuits. Brown versus Board of Education is an example of that. Try to change the law. That's litigation. The NRA would also do stuff of that nature to try to change the law. Research and policy proposals. They have think tanks that write policy proposals to change public policy. That's remember the goal of interest groups. So they think, they become experts in the field, and then they give their information to politicians. And so that's what it's meant by think tanks to change public policy. What makes them so powerful, or an interest group powerful? Size and money. Again, money is a big one. The bigger you are, the more powerful you are. The NRA, the AARP, extremely powerful because of their size and how much money they have. Unity, again, how unified they are within the group, within the interest group. Effective leadership, and then expertise. Expertise, I'd underline that, and I'd go back to not only the interest group, but the lobbyist working for the interest group needs to be an expert in that. So if Congress is trying to pass a law on gun control or something of that nature, that they would call the lobbyists in that worked for either the NRA or another organization, and that was anti guns, and they'd want them to help be an expert on that. If they had to do something with, again, science or something that they're not that familiar with, you bring in the lobbyist who is, and if they're good, they have access, and they're going to be somewhat biased, but that expertise helps grant that access to the politician. Political action committees was mentioned before. This is an organization that raises and distributes funds to candidates running for public office. You also have super PACs, and these are the ones like Bill Maher started for President Obama. Romney's got some super PACs started. So not only do you have political action committees, but now you have what's called super PACs, and they can raise as much money as they want for their whoever they want for the political party. Here's who has them: political action committees, and then the strategies that they use. Again, for the campaign contributions, they give it to incumbents, or they make videos for the incumbents. People already in power. That's what incumbent means. The office holder, winners of an election. That's who they'll try to, give money to, so they can influence or have influence there. People share the similar philosophy. They do it to grant access. Again, we've talked about what that means. And the big one here is underline whether or not a candidate holds a committee seat. Committees is where the real work of Congress is done in the House and the Senate, and we're getting ready to talk about that next unit. Voter education projects and independent expenditures and soft money. We'll learn what some of that is tomorrow. Who has PACs? These are some of the people that have them. The PACs, just like anything in politics, is the overrepresentation of the upper class and upper middle classes, and underrepresentation of the poor, because obviously the poor don't have the resources to do it. Labor unions, 10%, California Teachers Association, and those kind of things are labor unions, so we probably have a PAC that we donate to, or even have our own PAC. Non-connected ideological organizations, those are 25%. Corporations are 50%, which is kind of wrong if you think about it, but Citizens United. And professional trade and health associations have political action committees to try to influence politics, buy ads, buy space, donate money in a roundabout way without actually donating money, because you can only donate a certain amount of money from a political action committee to a politician. Super PACs have more leeway. You can't donate directly, but you create commercials. All right, public opinion in the media. And again, here's what the definition of public opinion. Some of individual opinions, beliefs, and attitudes. Think, political socialization, something we've already done already, so I'm not going to spend any time on this. I just got to hit enter on the PowerPoint. That's what I'm doing. And so these are the things that influences people's political socialization or political ideology. How is public opinion shaped? Interest groups that we just learned about, politicians, journalists, which is in the media. In the mass media, you have print journalism, which is dying, internet, TV journalism, and you also have social media. I have to go back to this because I can't. Here's what it is. I don't want to sit there and go through this whole thing. So again, think about how internet and TV journalism, especially the internet or social media, how this has changed. So I'd added social media there. And who is the media, or what is the media's job? The role of the media is to be a watchdog, as to watch people, make sure that politicians and things of this nature aren't doing bad things. They watch out for them and report when they are doing evil things. They're a scorekeeper to tell us who's winning, who's losing. They spin things one way or another. They're a gatekeeper for information, whether or not we get the information, how we get it. They let us know that. They give us perfect sound bites. Those are the things you see, and they're usually used as what's called a teaser to get you to watch the news broadcast later on. Again, staging. The politicians use it for your presidential press conference. Media, it's a staged event, which means we knew it was going to happen. There's on the record and off the record conversations. On the record means you can write what I'm saying down from an interview. Off the record means what I'm telling you, you're not going to report on. And then also you have leaks within the media that tell people how things are really being run and how things are really being done. Who are the masses? And it should say who are the mass media, not masses. Good, I can read. You have new media, which characteristics more intensive, more emphasis on entertainment. Think Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert. Emotional, think CNN, think MSNBC and Fox News. Opinionated, think Fox News, think MSNBC. You have major mass media, you have magazines, newspapers, and television, but I'd also put social media. That's huge now. With the advent of Twitter, Facebook, those are two things that are the mass media that people have to take into account and politicians have to take seriously. And then measuring public opinion, we already talked about this through opinion polls and how accurate depends upon the size. You have a straw poll and scientific sampling. We've talked about this. You have tracking polls that tell us how politicians are doing in certain elections. And then you also have exit polls, and these tell us how people voted left an election, like one out of every 10 people leaving the campaign. Here's the questions again you should be answering. Dan, I know you have 3 videos just because it was 27 minutes. So they're basically 2 15-minute videos. If you have any questions, concerns about anything we learned today, please write it down and ask me tomorrow in class. I'll be checking these notes. Alrighty, hope you have a great rest of your weekend.